when God nudges you with a new idea to share with others, what steps do you take to explore the idea? And I love this question because one of my strengths is actually wonder, which is kind of holding ideas in my brain and fleshing them out and seeing where they can go. So Nancy, when I get a new idea about a product or about a book or about a service that I could offer, what I do is I explore it in my external world, and I also keep exploring it internally. And what I mean by that is I like to run it by my audience or the people that I'm connected with, even when I'm in kind of the idea stages, and that typically will look like a question. So, for example, when I was exploring the idea of writing like a child, which is one of my mini projects coming out soon, but when I was exploring that idea, I can ask my audience, have you ever thought about how your creativity is different now from when you were a child? In what ways? Or I could ask my audience, did you think you were creative as a child? Why or why not? So I can start asking questions about the topic with my audience to see if there's any interest, if they even care, if they have thoughts, if they've thought about it. And what that does is it gives me more clay to work with, because they may have questions, they may have thoughts that I can then use and flesh out my ideas or think about a different angle that I hadn't thought about. So that's kind of the external. I start putting out some ideas or feelers, or I'm thinking, or one of my favorite types of posts is to say, I'm thinking about creating or writing or doing something on this topic. What questions do you have, or what do you think I should cover? And that's a very good post because it is very specific about your idea. And again, you're getting audience feedback. You're seeing if they would be interested, if it would even resonate. And so it's validating your idea with your audience. That's the external way. And then internally, I love the process of thinking about things, kind of turning them over in my mind, looking at all the different angles. I love to ask the question, how? Like, how could this work? What would this look like? You know me, it has to be fun. So I also like asking, what would make this easy? What would make this light? What would make this fun? Because we don't want to follow through on ideas that are later going to weigh us down or be hard to execute or feel burdensome. The more we can follow the ideas that light us up, that give us energy, the better. So internally, I'm continuing to ponder, kind of mull it over, almost like a cow chewing the cud. And then I'm also continuing to sit with that idea with God. So asking Him questions about it. What could this look like? Who is it for? And I love, I've heard it said a few different ways. So for me, I think of it as almost like a strategy session with God, or like a brain dumping time with God to plan and strategize. I know Amy Porterfield, she doesn't mention God, but she talks about giving herself time to super think, where she'll literally give herself like 30 minutes or an hour, nothing else going on. She'll get a cup of coffee, her notepad, and just sit and think and dream about her business, what she's doing. And I love that term, super think. And then I've also heard Shelley Hitz talk about business meetings with God. So she'll sit down again and just spend time asking God, like, hey, what should I work on next in my business? What's the idea to execute? And so Nancy, I think those three things is kind of bubbling it up to your audience through questions, getting feedback, 2, continuing to think and wonder and explore what it could look like, what would be fun for you, and then 3rd, sitting with God and listening and asking, what's the timing for this idea? What could it look like? What could it include, not include? Those are 3 of my favorite ways to explore a new idea as I'm deciding whether or not to make it a thing that I'm full force going after. Great questions, my friends.